Okay, guys, I wanted to go over the answers to the English quiz. Now, I don't think we did the best job we could do on this quiz. So we are going to take this quiz again on Wednesday before we leave for Easter break. It'll look the exact same, only the examples will be different, and obviously the answer order will be different because I'm not going to give you the exact same answer order. But we're going to try it again because I don't think we studied as much as we could have for the first one. So I'm still going to go over the answers though. Number one, in part A, you had to find what type of figurative language is being used. So, because I do not hope to turn again, because I do not hope to turn. And you see right here, you have because I do not hope, because I do not hope, because I do not hope. That is, oops, messed that up already. That is repetition. Okay, and so hopefully you understand that. Now, some people had put in there alliteration, and I see where that came from. They probably put that in there because of the word because, and it still had that B sound at the beginning, but that does not make alliteration whenever you repeat the same word. If you said, because Brad behaved badly, then you would have alliteration. That's when you have that same consonant sound at the beginning, but that was not alliteration. Number two, our soldiers are as brave as lions. Most people had this correct, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. That was a simile, so you should add simile there for number two. People generally did well on number three, the fire swallowed the entire forest. However, some people did miss it. The way to look at that is that you have a you have a fire, and it is swallowing. Fires cannot actually swallow. It's a term we use to describe what the fire did. Therefore, it is personification. Okay, so that's an example of personification. They're given human qualities. Now, number four, some people did mess up. And I think the reason why is because metaphors are harder to spot than similes because they do not use like or as, but they're still comparing two things. I'm going to go ahead and type metaphor in here. And in this case, the assignment was a breeze. The assignment's being compared to a breeze. It's trying to say that the assignment was easy, but that makes a metaphor. Now, number five, a lot of people missed, and I put right on the review, this was one thing you had to be responsible for, and it tells me people might not have looked this word up again. We didn't spend tons of time in class on it, but we did spend time, and so you should be responsible for it. The boy thought the girl was awfully pretty, and I put the awfully pretty in italics, hoping that that would kind of ring a bell a little bit for you. But like I said, a lot of people still missed it. Oxymoron. Remember, a lot of your oxymorons are going to be those little two-word phrases that kind of contradict each other. Awfully pretty. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you break it down word to word. Okay, so that was oxymoron. Number six, then, while I nodded nearly napping, and I've used this as an example in class before for alliteration, that's where you have the beginning consonant sound. Okay, it's from Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven, which we'll see later in the test. While I nodded nearly napping, that N sound is alliteration. All right, down to part B. A lot of people messed up part B. You had to identify the text structure. What tells me that some people didn't even bother to look at their review sheet was that they had answers that weren't even text structures. On the review sheet, I put the different types of text structures that would be on the quiz, and people weren't even putting those answers down. That tells me we didn't really do a great job of looking at our quiz review or studying. So number seven talks about the dodo bird. It's basically telling us why the dodo bird has become extinct. In fact, there's even one part that says because of this. That should be an obvious clue that that answer there is cause and effect, okay? Cause and effect. They give us the effect that the dodo bird is gone, and then they give us the cause for it too, why it's gone. Number eight was a simple compare and contrast. They took the Linux and they took Windows, and they talked about how their operating systems, what some do, what some don't do. One person even put point by point, and that was fine because that's a type of compare and contrast, so I took that as an answer too when they put point by point. That was a simple compare and contrast. Most people had that one. Here's one that people really struggled with. Thousands of people die each year in car accidents involving drugs or alcohol. Lives could be saved if our town adopts a free public taxi service. By providing such a service, we could prevent intoxicated drivers from endangering themselves or others. So what they did was they gave you the problem. Thousands of people die each year in car accidents involving drugs or alcohol. Then they give you a solution to that problem, and that was the taxi service. Number 10, about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's basically a story. They're telling a story. They're not telling you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They're telling you the story of how they went home from school and had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Therefore, that is chronological order. Okay, chronological order. And then finally, number 11, for part B, again, some people put chronological order for this, but that's not the answer. It's giving instructions. Okay, it's just telling you how to eat cereal, simple instructions. That is sequence. That would be a sequence, not necessarily chronological order. It's a type of chronological order, but you have to be a little specific and say sequence. I think I even took instructions or directions on that one. Now, for the paraphrasing, I'm not going to go through and re-paraphrase each part. These were kind of hit or miss. Some people did a really nice job. Some people just took, like, let's look at number 12. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. Again, that's from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, too. Some people just took that, maybe took 3 words out of it and rewrote it. That's not paraphrasing at all. That's plagiarizing. Another thing that messed some people up is they would take parts of the sentence and rearrange them. Now, you can do that when you paraphrase, but you still have to change the words. And so they would say maybe something like, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door, and then they'd say, suddenly there came a tapping, and then you finish it with, while I nodded, nearly napping. Okay, sometimes that works when you rearrange the parts, but you still have to change the words. You can't just keep the same words. And so maybe if they said, someone came tapping real lightly at my door and I almost fell asleep, then it'd be okay to rearrange the words. Okay, but if you just use the same words, that doesn't count for paraphrasing. So that was kind of the biggest mistake that people made. Either that or they would just rewrite the whole sentence. Sometimes someone would leave out a part, like take this while I nodded, nearly napping part, and they would just say someone came tapping lightly at my door, but they wouldn't mention that they almost fell asleep, that they were nearly napping, and so you would lose some points for that too. So we're going to work this week on those 3 concepts again. We're going to take the quiz on Wednesday. Again, it'll look about the same, so hopefully you study this time and get those concepts mastered.